Inshallah, I shall proceed to shine like a star. Camels rise up in Ishtar and kill bacteria like black Russian tar. Diligent nobility spar with the devil at the same time raise the bar. Above par is the locale where the gods are. Lay shellacking on them mutant like Bellspar. And control polarities like Eltar. The fulcrum point steer car. Like a B-12 humming on the Biru coming. Standing on the summit like the Mendez gold while I point up the stock market plummet. The elite vomit of the lies that they stomach start stumbling and fumbling while the world around them crumbling. Crazy am I, no just focus eye like the lens on your blue eye. We shoot high. Miles, Dewey, Davis, trumpet in the ends cry. The word, Jah, real Jah. John 1, Johann said he saw the end come with a new earth and a new heaven. 1 2 1 2. No more treason, because young souls are now seasoned. Imbalances are now reasoned. The vulture wings spread and warmed by the sun shoots its rays through the carbon man dread. The word shot, real shot, real shot, real shot, shot, real shot, real shot, real shot. No man learned that song, but the 140,000 which were redeemed from the earth. The minor skirmishes that the world witnesses is a galleon in nature, is what the business is. There's a particle that lives in the 1 2 1 2 mic check. Can y'all hear me? Good day to everybody. I'm over here trying to fiddle around with some stuff here because I like to do StreamYard, but StreamYard does not allow me to write on the board. I wanted to play a little bit of music for a minute to give myself a second to get myself together, but I need to practice with that some a little more to get more acquainted with how I can do that when I'm on Zoom. So peace to everyone. I hope everybody's having a positive start to your day. Trying to get all my little gadgets in order here. So I was contemplating, should I do this video, record it like I normally do it, or should I try to do this live? And I decided, well, I'm going to do it live, and whatever happens, happens. This is the next installment of the astrology of quote unquote black people, subtitled The Conspiracy Against the Sun. And like I said, we're going to do this live, which means I won't be editing out the uhs and the and places where I may have lost my train of thought and all that good stuff. So we're just gonna get it raw and direct today, and it helps save me some time on the back end. So I'll do my best to try. The other thing that's going to be challenging about this is me forgetting things. See, when I record, I get a chance to lay something down like, oh, wait a minute, I forgot about this. And I might be able to go and put it back in a segment. But we're going to let the divine forces guide us today.
And before I begin, I want to, because I'm talking about the sun, and the sun is the ambassador of the sign of Leo, I must give a shout out to my father today, Henry Robinson, who was the Leo of Leos, the epitome of Leo. And the name Henry means ruler of the house. And he was the ruler of the house. So I got to give a shout out to my old man, honor his memory today. I also want to give a shout out today to the memory of, first of all, before I say the great Roy Ayers, let me make sure I say the great Henry Robinson, because he was just as much of a master and a genius. My father is a trailblazer, a pioneer, ingenuitive, you know, and in his own way taught me magic, because my father used to say things like, you know, if you got something you were having to do, like a test or some type of little challenge that was coming up, he would say something like, well, you're going to be all right, boy. You got my blood in you. You know, things like that. Or he would say, you're a Robinson, boy. You're a Robinson, such and such. My father taught me the power of mythology. And sometimes people get a little offended when you place when you say something is mythological. People tend to think that you are degrading it. The mythos is the highest form of any science. It's above everything else. Okay. Because the mythos encapsulates every other science you can think of. Even astrology is dependent upon the mythos. There's a connection between the astrological delineation and, at the rudimentary nature, the mythos. Because the mythos is leading you back to a womb. It's leading you back to an an ontological understanding, the nature of things. The mythos is the epistemology. How do we know what we know? How do we know that Jupiter acts this way? How do we know that? Because of the mythos. And so my father created a mythology around our name. That's why I never feel the need to change my name into nothing based on what I have become or whatever. No, my name is still good enough, because he planted a seed that the version of Robinson that I carry is something special about that. And so he, as a Leo, introduced the magic of the mythos to me, because to this day, I still feel there's something special about Robinsons, you know? And so then, because I feel that, I carry that energy and I act it out. And I pass that same mythos down to my children. So I give honor to my pops before I begin. I also must give honor to the great Roy Ayers, and I wish that these platforms were not set up to where they clamp down so much that you just can't play music. I would love to be able to play two songs right now from Roy Ayers. And of course, we know he recently transitioned. He transitioned around the first eclipse, the lunar eclipse. But two songs that I really want to highlight of his catalog off the same album. Everybody Loves the Sunshine, which is a song that a lot of people are familiar with. And the other one is The Third Eye, Secrets of Numbers, Secrets of Sounds. Um, I can't remember let me see if I can, because they'll show you the lyrics. Let me make sure I don't let it play on here. But let me share lyrics. Baby, 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 look to the sky. Baby, 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 look to the sky. Seeking to find the third eye. Seeking to find the third eye. Secrets of numbers. Secrets of sound. Secrets of numbers. Secrets of sound. Secrets of wisdom will be found. Baby, 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 look to the sky. Seeking to find the third eye. And I think this might have come out in 1976. 1976, a year before I was born. This is when this came out. This how advanced Roy Ayers was and is. Kicking high science. Secrets of numbers, secrets of sound. Remember, we said this quote is attributed to Pythagoras. God built the universe on numbers. And in the Zohar, God created the universe with the letters of the alphabet. And the letters and numbers hold frequencies. And that's what sound is: frequency, waves, secrets of numbers, secrets of sound. So this brother was obviously into his high science, Kabbalistic study. You know, he was in it. Astrology. Everybody loves the sunshine. Everybody needs the sunshine. So what happens if you deny the sun? And I'm talking at all levels, which leads to this conversation. I'm going to try my best to tie in, and I'm not going to go and tell you when I'm tying it in, but I'm just giving you an overarching view right now. At some point, it's going to tie in the sun as divine light, meaning illuminated, all knowing. At some point, it's going to tie in the sun as divine law, justice, the sun as divine love, the sun as the divine child, the sun as the divine force, the sun as the divine reflection, the sun as the divine truth, the sun as the divine identity, and finally, the sun as divine healing. I'm going to do my best to unpack these 8 aspects of divinity as is related to the sun in this discussion. So peace to everybody coming in. You know, we're gonna do our best. I don't have any, I don't want any trash to come through here and interrupt the flow. So I don't see any of my normal moderators. Okay, so I need to we need to add some we need some moderation just in case some trash come through here. We need to be able to throw it out because I don't want to get knocked off my train of thought. So I don't know. I'm trying to need to make some moderators. Hmm. Okay. Why is it not? Let's see. It's not showing. Okay. Either way. So hopefully we get this thing rolling. Okay. So here's where we begin. A scripture that I've been out of the Bible that I've been talking about a lot lately, which is Malachi 4 and 2. 4, 1 and 2. Peace, peace, divine rights. Okay, so for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. Verse 2. But unto you that hear my name shall the Son of Righteousness. Now, here's the key. Son is spelled S-U-N here, and it is capitalized. But unto you that hear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and ye shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. Now, there's a lot we can unpack there. When we think of Son of Righteousness from the standpoint of, let's just say, Abrahamic religion. Well, no, not even Abraham. Let's just say from a Christian standpoint, we're going to think, oh, that's Jesus or Christ. Okay. But it is intentional, the differentiation here. Not only is it son, S-U-N, but it is son capitalized. Now, I could be wrong because haven't done an exhaustive search with this, but I think at present that there are only two places in the canonized Bible where son is capitalized. And from what I've found thus far, it is in this passage in Malachi and in Joshua 10 and 12. That these are the only two places where the word son is capitalized. So then it raises a question. Were the Kabbalists, and now this is from my standpoint, were the Kabbalist playwrights leaving us a clue, an Easter egg of sorts? It's quite possible that they were revealing the true nature of the coming Messiah or Mashiach, that it was not an actual historical figure, but yet something way deeper, including the physical and metaphysical solar force we refer to as the sun. I want to read that again. It's possible that they were revealing the true nature of the coming Mashiach, that it was not an actual historical figure, but yet something way deeper, including the physical and metaphysical solar force we refer to as the sun. Now, you got to expand your mind to digest what I just said, because I am not just referring to a sun in the sky. And if I say that is not referring to a historical Christ, it is not an attempt to challenge anyone's perspective. You must broaden your mind and release whatever you think is the truth and consider another possibility. And that if one figure is to be what all of this energy is about, then it negates the power of each individual person. But what if the story anthropomorphized about one figure is actually talking about a state of realization of power within each shard of divine light, which represents the people? In other words, the outer sun corresponding to an inner sun, which leads me to this: the glyph of the sun, the astrological glyph of the sun. So bear with me. I'm waiting on my board to come up. Gonna be patient. Okay. All right. All right. So, you students of astrology, of course, are well aware that this is the glyph for the sun. Okay. That's the glyph of the sun. Now, here are normal things we hear about the sun. What's the first thing we hear? It's the ego. We hear things about personality. It is how we, it's what we focus on. Okay. So ego, personality, what we focus on. It is, if we go a little deeper, it's how we create. You know, it is how the inner child, if we go a little deeper, it's how the inner child expresses. I'm just going to put an EX for expresses. This last one takes us deeper and introduces us to a deeper perspective of the sun. It is not something that is just the ego from a connotative standpoint. Connotatively, we use the word ego now to suggest something superficial. I.e., a mask. But if you go back to the video I did on masks, then you see even the mask. When you think about traditional indigenous cultures, the incorporation of the mask into ritual, even the mask itself is not superficial. But if we just take the word ego, how we connotatively use it as surface, then we see, though, the more we contemplate the sun, it is far more than surface. The glyph denotes that. In science, this part That dot in the middle, what would that be the equivalent of if we were looking at a cell? Y'all tell me in the y'all tell me in the what you call them in the chat. What would in biology, what would that dot in the middle, if we were looking at a cell, what would that dot be the equivalent of as part as when we talking about parts of the cell? What would that be equivalent of? Y'all still out there? Okay. I'll go ahead and say it. I don't know if I put y'all to sleep already or what. This is the nucleus. The middle of the cell, or the middle of the atom, would be the nucleus. And the outer part, let's say if we're going by an electron, and I was terrible in science, hated it, but I at least know this a little bit. The outside would be low on stores. Okay. The outside would be the electron shell. And it can have several shells, which is, kind of like, oh, we can look at the rings of Saturn as like electron shells. Okay. So the middle is the nucleus, which is considered to be the heart of the cell or the atom. And the outside is the electron shell, if we're talking about an atom specifically. So many times when we talk about the sun sign, we are speaking about it from this scientific standpoint or perspective of the electron shell, as in what is emitting or what is happening out on the outskirts. But the sun is very much also, or more importantly, the nucleus. That's why we have the dot in the middle of the glyph. And what the sun shows is the expression of something going on inside, which is why the sun physiologically coincides with the heart. And the heart is a transfer station for the blood. And the blood carries what? The vital essence. So we learn that the sun also represents vitality, because without the sun in our solar system, we have no life. Without our heart, we have no vital force. We have no life. But metaphysically, without the ability to express your sun sign, you also have no life. The ability to, in a healthy manner, allow your inner child to express from the caverns of your heart is just as important as the physical heart transferring and replenishing vital essence. And so in what we're going to be doing here is bouncing back and forth to try to make sense of this. And it might get jumbled at some point, but it is what it is. That's why we have all this modern technology, and we can go back and review things so that if something gets lost in translation, you can go back and rewind the video. All right. So with that little foundation laid down, let's refer back to the fact that we referenced Malachi 4, 1 and 2, and how the sun is capitalized, which is giving us a clue of the significance. And it just so happened that this shows up at the end of the canonized Old Testament, at the end of the first act. And the great C. Freeman L. said, Old Testament, Old Testamenta, New Testament, New Testamenta, Old Testa, body, Old Menta, mind, old body, old mind. So at the end of the opening act, which is old body, old mind, we have this statement made in one of the shortest books in this literary work. Before we move into the new body, new mind, I don't think it's by happenstance. So let's look at the word son and one of its Hebrew variances. The son is Shemesh. Okay. And what's interesting about how this word just looks when you spell it out in Hebrew is it denotes balance and harmony because it starts with a shin, and in the middle there's a meme, and then there's another shin or sheen. And so there's some what they call that symmetry, just even how the word looks. It starts with sheen or shin and ends with shin. And then there's a meme in the middle, and the meme is the actual midpoint in the alphabet. And it's matter. It's the gate of matter where everything must come through to earn its stripes to graduate. But when you look at this word, so I don't get bogged down in that, that's another teaching. It has a value of 640. 640. So, one thing we can do to get clues about the nature, because what do we say? You give a name to identify, right? So Shemesh is identifying the sun. But if I say Tamar, I'm identifying something else. And remember, Tamar is she's the harlot in the book of Genesis. You know, I did a lecture on that like 7 years ago about Tamar and the three brothers who all slept with her, and one spilled a seed, and I can't remember the whole story, but she's divine. She's the divine whore. Okay? Because look what, see, that's how you can't get caught in reading these stories verbatim because you'll get tricked. You can't get the sauce out of none of these stories until you actually see what these names mean. The names are the juice in these stories. They're giving you the real cloth when you study the name. Then you get into, well, what does that name mean? And what is the vibration of the name? And you read that story at face value, you lost in the sauce. Because Tamar, her name adds up to the same value as the sun. Now, so remember, the name identifies, the number goes along with it, but it is the resonance. So by having the number, we can know that while something has different names, they have a matching resonance. It takes very little energy to drive a resonant circuit. Okay? So here we got Tamar. Now I'm tell you now, Tamar is interesting. What does this name Tamar mean? It means to rise up. What does the sun do? It rises in the eastern sky. It rise up straight. Straight would mean erect. Think about such thing. Now, just think about all the other things you studied that help you understand scripture. When you've gone to study Kundalini, and that the snake lies coiled up until it is agitated to where it stands up. And the standing up is the same as Moses' staff. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So the rising up, consciousness, illumination, potency, power, right? So in addition to rise up straight, Tamar, and let me say this too, we're going for the long haul today. We might be on here for a while. So I got what I got. It's 11 Central Standard Time. So we 12, 1. Okay, well, I'm at least I'm trying to get this done no more than 2 hours. So we in it for the week. This is for those who have the attention span. And if not, you can come back, um, you know, and whatever. So Tamar, rise up straight. But Tamar also means palm tree. Remember I was talking about the palm tree the other day and how the palm tree is venerated by the Sufis. And remember I told you the Sufis, especially you read Idris Shah stuff, they don't tell you anything straight out. Everything's a riddle. Reading Sufi stuff is almost like reading Aleister Crowley stuff. I have killed 1,000 babies, and you know, and you have to. These are tricks to throw you off the trail, and because it's not supposed to be just given to you. And I'm not part of no order, so this is all me just um deductive reasoning. Cause no, I can't verify this with no Sufi or whatever. I wouldn't even know if I know one. But I know how to add, I know how to subtract, you know? I know how to pay attention to things. So I told you I was watching a video of some people doing some work on a house, and they were talking about the danger of planting a palm tree too close to your house. It'll mess your foundation up because the roots seek water wherever they can find it. The palm tree has this 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 crazy root structure, big old thick roots. Go and find water anywhere. And to me, bam, one off. I was like, oh, be like the palm tree. Because Idris Shah got a book called Learning How to Learn. I got a bunch of his books. Even before I even cracked the book open, I was like, I already know what this shit about. Learning how to learn. That's the secret. And it's hard. No one can really teach you that. It's something you have to learn how to learn. That's what intelligence is. It's not what you know, it's your ability to know. So it's the same thing in the Bible. It says you must come as a child, meaning you must have the ability to learn, learning how to learn. So the palm tree is the epitome of that because its root structure is seeking water. Water is divine manna of sorts. It's part of the equation of divine manna because it rejuvenates. It's the waters of life. Tamar, the palm tree, stands upright because it constantly seeks the water of life. And then you have Shemesh, which is the sun itself. And when you put those together, in essence, what does a plant need to grow? At its most rudimentary level, it needs water and it needs light in order for it to stand up straight. And the sun, as the ambassador of Leo, Leo is also the child. And the child is always asking, why? 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 Children are inquisitive until we shut them down. And if the palm tree is always seeking water, then it's always looking to learn, to drink from the waters of life. So here we see this correlation between ah. So and that so we can sum this up maybe by saying divine wisdom. Those two together, divine wisdom. Now, if you follow what I do, here's another thing I often talk about. It's this. It is taking a gematria value and reducing it for context. So if we're looking at words that have a value of 640 and we do basic numerology, which means we're adding the 6 and the 4, that equals 10. That reduces to 1. The same reality will come about if we just take the number 64. So 640 would be a higher octave of 64. But in essence, they still resonate at the same frequency because 6 and 4 still reduces to 1. So I can take 64 and get more perspective about 640, which we're going to come back to that. But for now, I'm going to add in this because you know what we also talk about is reflection. So now that I reduced 640 to 64, I also want to look at its reflection, which would be 46. Now, if y'all been following, I talked about mu, right? Mu represents the outcry of the vulture. See? Okay. The outcry of the vulture. But it's more than that. There's another word that coincides with that has the same resonance as mu, and it is Levi. Did I? I'm gonna try to spell it off memory. So you heard of the tribe of Levi. Let me see if I can. So I know it's got to be a Lamed. There's got to be a Va in there somewhere because of that V sound. So that would be 36. And so I'm sure, I guess it would be a Yud at the end. Levi. Let me double check though, so I don't make a liar of myself. Double check that spelling. I think I'm right, but I'd rather know than be guessing. Let's see. Yeah, I'm right. Okay. So this is the spelling for Levi. Now, what does Levi mean in essence? It means attached, join, uh, or joined to. Attached, joined to. Now, this is where we come in and we study. We This is the value of studying, period. Let me just say that. Because what you do is you see how things that have seemed independent of other things, how they're actually connected. Okay. We didn't grow up learning that there's a possible connection between Mott and Levi. Levi is a tribe. That's one of Jacob's offspring, and he's one of the 12 tribes. That's how it's presented. But when you go and break these words down, and you find that it has a resonance of 46, and then Mu has a resonance of 46, and it specifically refers to the outcry of a vulture. Then this is a clue because Levi we found means attached, joined to. How are they related based on that? Well, here's how. Because the vulture coincides with Venus. Because the word relationship, which is ruled by Venus, traces back to vulture through through the L and the T, which when you reverse them, they become TL. And TL is a code for Tula. And if you go back and study during World War II, this is part of what the fight was over. FDR and their camp they call themselves the Tula Boys. And then you had the dude with the mustache across the pond or in the other across the way, he was looking for the spear of destiny. Now, the spear of destiny would trace back, and I don't know if they were just as dumb or if this is just codes that were put out. I don't think they were just as dumb to actually look for physical things. Or maybe they were, or maybe they were looking for sites, physical sites that they knew were charged with this energy. And they were fighting to commandeer these sites to gain access to this energy. But the spirit destiny traced back to this. And the Tula boys trace back to here. Here, this is mama. Because Venus also doubles as Hathor. And Hathor is also Isis. And Isis is where we get Mary from. Because Mary is the virgin, which is Virgo, which is the mother along with Cancer. That's what Cancer and Virgo serve to raise up Leo. Cancer provides the nurturing and the vortex or the portal, and Virgo provides the tutelage. And so this is what they were fighting over. But the word vulture etymologically coincides with Venus, because when you look up the word relationship, it goes back to balance, and balance takes you back to vulture. Where else was I going with something else? I said, how was I going to show the correlation? What was it between Venus? It was Mu. Oh, and Levi. Okay, Levi. Venus. Here's the glyph of Venus. Now look at the symbol of the Ankh or the Anuk. It's the same symbol. So this is a newer variant of this. And if you get Alvin Boyd Kuhn's book, The Esoteric Alphabet, give you another jewel right there. And y'all can feel free to chingaling that cash app for these jewels for free. It's dollar sign the Gnosis 77. I'm gonna stop being proud. And yeah, you can damn sure cash at me for these jewels. So the book is the Esoteric Alphabet, and he breaks down how the Ankh or Anuk means to join, and that an extension of join means knowledge. The Ankh also means creation, and you can figure this out when you trace the actual etymology of the word knowledge. It means create. It means join. So the Anuk is divine knowledge by joining things together. Well, what does Venus do? Venus is a magnet. When things are magnetized, they join together. Relationship is a joining together. Well, remember Levi, when we broke it down, it meant attached, joined to. Now, what does this have to do with all the sun? Because remember where we began, we were looking at a reversal or reflection. Just a recap. So 640 reduces to 64. And then if I want to see the reflection of 64, then I can look at 46. Here's something that's an easy one for everybody to pick up on this thing of joining together. How many chromosomes do you get from each parent? How many chromosomes do we get from each parent? Let's see. Let's see what y'all talking about. Now, yeah, everybody know this. How many chromosomes from each parent? Damn, yeah, somebody got y'all's fingers taped together. Okay, there we go. 23. So 23 from each parent equals 46. Now, see, is it just by happenstance that the joining together of two sets of DNA produces 46 chromosomes? And then there's a word in Hebrew that means joined together, attached to, and that there's a word describing an action, the outcry from a bird that coincides with an energy that represents joining together. I don't think it's by happenstance. So the reflection of the sun, remember, I said in one of my points, I said the different eight aspects, we said the sun as divine reflection. So we're looking at the reflection of the sun by looking at 46. Venus, i.e., the Anuk, i.e., Mot, i.e., Levi, attracts and joins, which simultaneously creates desire. Now I'm jumping to astrology here because the opposite of Venus when she's in either of her domiciles is Mars. Venus attraction, Mars desire. So it creates desire. So when desire is acted upon, the essence of that acting upon the desire, which was fueled by the attraction. Everything is everything. This is even talking about in our mundane lives, the whole aspect of attraction. You are attracted to something, immediately your desire builds. Those two, it's like they simultaneously emerge almost from one egg. It's like attraction, desire. Ooh. And then when the desire is acted upon, meaning the desire, the desire is acting based on the attraction, then something comes out, an outcry. The vulture, the outcry. The outcry in one regard is the impregnation process. The outcry is the birth of the baby, which is the result of attraction and desire. This when you say words like everything is everything, it truly is. Everything is everything. Now, if we take the word cry, look at this. Look at this right here. The word cry, just by itself. When I trace the Indo-European etymology, it traced back to this word, virile. It's crazy. Virile. Um, and when you look up the word virile, then it refers to etymologically, you know, it refers to the life force in man and woman. Now, hold on. Life force. Life force. Didn't we start the conversation out identifying the sun as representing one's vitality? Now, what does vitality mean? It means life force. Oh, shit. Everything is everything. So here we see again another connection that the sun as vitality, which equals life force, coincides with the word cry, which comes from the word virile. And virile means the life force in man and woman, which is referring to the hidden essence, i.e., the soul, SOUL, the soul, SOL, which is the sun. So Venus coinciding with the vulture, and the vulture uh, with the word mu, and mu being the outcry, and cry being virility, and virility being life force, and the sun vitality, and and vitality is life force. And mu, this how these people play games. Albert Churchward wrote this book in the maybe the 1930s or 40s called The Children of Mu. And these people, as part of these lodges, had access to information way beforehand, already knew what he meant by the children of Mu. And the thing is, the actual children who were being referred to didn't have access to this information way back then. And even in the way it was written, it does not come right out and say who the children of Mu are. And that's part of the reason that this video, I put it under the series, The Astrology of quote unquote black people. Not because I want to make this like a rah-rah cheerleading moment for yay. You know, I'm always careful about this. I want to make sure I'm clear. At one stage of your learning, you're regaining your self-esteem. You're like, I got melanin. My melanin popping, and that's cool. But I'm damn near 50 years old. And and I'm beyond that stage. We're to the point now of figuring out. My daddy taught me how to work with tools outside. You know, like this is a shovel, boy. You do a spade shovel when we got to dig. You use a square shovel when we're just trying to pick up dirt and move it, da 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 da. I'm trying to. This is more from the standpoint of understanding the tool and how to work with it. This series is not for those who just want to feel good. This ain't it. We too late. It's too late in the game to just be looking to feel good. As I go along, hopefully I will develop this to show you, okay, by understanding some of, if there is a conspiracy, then okay, well, what do I need to do? That's the difference, I think, from what I'm attempting to do here. I'm not trying to make you feel good. It's about understanding the different layers of your own nature and the nature of this game. Okay. Now, again, the brilliance of the Kabbalists is on display for us. The word Shemesh, formed with the Shin, meme, Shin, represents a joining in its structure. The fire spirit that is Shin is joined or reconnected with itself through the waters of meme. Thus, its reflection, 46, represents the unfolding, realization, and duty of the expressed divine consciousness, which is to reunite with itself. 46, which keeps leading us to something about joining together, is thus saying that divine consciousness must fall. The sun must fall in order for there to be a rise. There must be a aquinal equinox for there to be the celebration of a vernal equinox. The sun must fall to know itself. When the sun crosses the octinal equinox, it is going into the underworld, the private world, the hidden world to know itself. When it crosses the vernal equinoxes, it is now moving back out into the world to be seen. But all that world to be seen is superficial if it has not gone into its underworld to know itself. It's also noteworthy that the number 46 is the reduced value of the Hebrew letter Ta. Oh boy. Now let's go to the next phase. The next phase. The next phase is 46 as a reduced version of 406. And this is why you study. So you can see these little things when they come up. They won't you won't know you're seeing it unless you know you're seeing it. Here's what I mean. Each Hebrew letter has a face value. The face value of Ta is 400, but that's not the full complexity of its value because the next level of seeing its value is to break down how the letter is spelled. So the letter Ta consists of letters to form it. So the Ta is a Ta and a Va. That's the full spelling of Ta. And Ta Va has a value of 406. Now, what does this mean? What does Ta mean? Because each letter also has symbolic meaning. First of all, it's the last. So that's great symbolic. Um, a great clue. So when we talk about Alpha and Omega, this is the Omega. So it's the final truth. It is also means mark. Now, what is a mark? In this instance, it is identification. It's identification. Identification of what? In one regard, we can say one who is in communion or has been joined with the sun, which is 640. Now, bear with me because I'm going to come back because you might be thinking, well, what about 64? Why you keep dancing around? Just stay with me. Stay with me. If you got to go and pee, go pee. If you got to go fix a sandwich, come back and fix your sandwich and come back. Cause stay. Cause this thing is going to keep developing. So the Ta is the mark. The mark that says what? That denotes a covenant. A covenant with the sun. Ah, okay. Now, going back, if we take that Ta and reduce it to, we also get that, we also know it also refers to Mu. The crying out that is mu is the release of a truth, a force that has always been and will always be. And it also brings things full circle to the mentioning of the word. What they say in John 1 and 1, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. Now, Christ is referred to as the Logos. Logos means word. And it's no secret that Christ astrologically coincides with Leo. And Leo is the sign that the sun serves as the ambassador of. We can go even further to say that Mu, as the act of crying out, represents the speaking of the word that brought creation into existence, which brought the sun into the state of being an inner sun and then creating from that. And in the words of Phil Valentine, it represents the transmission of light code frequency coming from the outer sun and nestled in a hidden inner core, again, as denoted by the glyph of the sun. Everything is everything. Furthermore, Levi, as the third son of Jacob, represents the affinity. Now, let me clarify this word affinity, because the affinity is a word that there's a thing called theosophic addition and reduction. And basically, to summarize, it's another form of numerology that not it's not dealing with nine numbers, it deals with three. And that everything else is just a duplication. Because theosophic addition does this. It says whenever you get to a four is just a placeholder. Because the four is just a one plus a two plus a three plus a four, which equals 10, and 10 equals one. Okay. If you get to a five, it's just four plus three plus two plus one. That's 9, 12, 14. Wait a minute. 1 plus 2 is 3, 6, 4, 7, 7 and 5, 12. Wait a minute. I messed up something. Either way, the way this cipher goes, anytime you get, oh, never mind. I did it wrong. Because we know that four is a one, that's how the cipher goes. Then five automatically becomes a two, and six automatically becomes a three. And because we've established that four is a one, every time we go past the third number, it comes back to one. So seven is a one, because seven is going to be one plus two plus three plus four plus five plus six plus seven. Add all that up. One and two, three, six, six and four, 10, 15, 21, plus seven is 28. 28 reduces to 10, 10 reduces to one. So that's the cipher. So in other words, this particular cipher only validates three numbers: one, two, three. Everything else just becomes, you start over at one, two, three again. Now, based on this, it says that one is I can't remember their terminology. Let's just say one is masculine. And let's say two is feminine. Then the three is referred to as the affinity. What does that mean? The perfection, or neutral or neuter point. And neuter does not refer to like immobile, like neutral in your car. It is referring to neuter as in it has overcome the it has overcome polarity. So three represents the union of the one and the two, because previously they thought themselves to be polarities or opposites. And the three is the affinity because it has overcome that. C. Freeman used to teach this. He said the Great Pyramid of Egypt. He said good, evil, and then perfect up here at the apex. Great Pyramid of Egypt. The perfection is being at the top, at the apex. Same concept. Why am I going into that? Levi as the third son, third affinity, represents the affinity, the point of neutrality, the composite merger point of intersection, joining of the previous two. The number three is also associated with perfection, i.e., Christ, as its triangulation overcomes the perceived duality, reuniting the polar opposites to something higher than them both. So stick with me because we're going to come back to that. To think, remember what I said about triangulation. Your sun sign represents light. We're going into the touching on a little bit of astrology now, more specifically. Your sun sign represents light that has fallen and that your mother has been tasked to bear until the right time for it to fully emerge in the material world with the expressed task of reuniting with the light that it originally was emitted from. I'm going to read that again. Your sun sign represents the light that has fallen, and that, remember, Shemesh, sun, Hebrew spelled Shemesh. And remember what I said about the dreidel, the little toy, the dreidel, which has, if I would have been thinking, I would have brought it in. The dreidel, which when you're playing the game, what you don't want is to for it to roll on shin or sheen, because that means you got to give up everything you got. Let me find those. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull up a dreidel real quick, because I can't remember what I know one of the other ones there's a gimel. The gimel is the one you want the most. Mm, oh yeah, it has a shin, a hey, a gimel, and a nun. This is a sidebar, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead with this sidebar real quickly. That when you add those four letters up, they equal this number, 358. And that number has the same resonance as Messiah or Mashiach in Hebrew, and also Nekesh. I can't spell it. Nekesh. I can't remember how you spell. But Nekesh is for serpent. All got the same value. And in this game, if you get a nun, you get nothing. You get a gimel, you take everything. You take the pot. If you get a hay, you take half the pot. So the gimel is like Jupiter. The hay is like Venus. You only get half the pot. The shin would be you got to put in. So I what would we say that might be like Saturn, and then nothing. I don't know. But so I kind of see like the two traditional malefics, and the two traditional benefics, but the whole total they add up to 358. And so then you got this balance between light and dark. But either way, the shin, you're having to give up something. So what did I say? The son falls into the mother. The mother is meme, and she's tasked to bear the light until it fully emerges in the material world with the express task of reuniting with the light, Shin, because Shin is also revolution. It's a full circle. All that encased in that word. Let me get back on track here. Physically and metaphysically, the sun represents vitality. There is no life on this planet without the physical sun. We've touched on that. Likewise, there is no spiritual growth without attaining a sun sign or a particular way of expressing consciousness to vitalize your soul essence through a human vessel. So, yes, the sun does represent the ego, connotatively speaking, at first, but that's just if that's all you got to offer. I want to clarify that. It's like this statement Patrice O'Neill used to say. He's like, yes, I want sex from you, but if that's all you got to offer, that's all I want. Just because the man's natural inclination is to desire sex from a woman first. All that other horse shit is garbage. You see a woman, you're attracted, you're thinking sex, right? But it's so I see that as how we look at the sun sign. We kind of, because that approach in the dating world or whatever relationship world is considered to be superficial or shallow and da, when it's the truth. But so the sun, yeah, it does represent the ego, but it only represents the ego if that's all you got. The man only wants sex if that's all you got. Understand the correlation here? How we take these words and they become villainous, like, oh, just your ego and and like, well, shit, if you ain't got no ego, you ain't in the game. If there's no desire, what is it built on? If there's no initial attraction, it's the same concept. The ego is the starting point. And if we don't have that, you ain't in the game, you know? So the soul essence through, so yes, the sun, if you actually grow while on this earth journey, the sun represents a particular God frequency that your soul has tuned into, which would be the equivalent of an actual relationship developing. But see, if we put too much, so even countering what I said, if we put too much emphasis on the attraction, we'll keep getting shallow experiences. If we put too much emphasis on our sun sign, on ego expression, then we will lose out on the full rich experience. But if we use that as a conduit, then it actually can help us tap into a particular God frequency. So now back to the gematria. Hopefully I'm making sense. And if I'm not, at least I gave it a good try. The number 640 also correlates to the word shalosh. So remember I said when I brought up triangulation to keep that in mind. And this is where I want to go back to the master, Roy Ayers. because the word shalosh, which if I remember, I think it's spelled like this. It's 310. That's 340. Yeah. I think that's shalosh. So shalosh means musical instrument. Ah, everybody loves the sunshine. Musical instrument. It means triangle. Ah, so when you have a trine in your chart, it is a triangulation of energy, which means it naturally is where these planets are striking a harmonious note. And where that note has been sounded, there is a light that naturally shines where you have a trine. Now, you can be lazy and not do anything with it. Sometimes it takes some type of calamity or tragedy or hardship for us to actually hear the song. But the trine in the chart is a musical instrument. It's a song. This word shalosh also means arbitrator. And what does an arbitrator do? Seeks balance, equanimity. What's that other word? Um, to be um it's a word that starts with A. Oh man, I can't think of it right now. It's not accommodating, but it's another word that talks about being some type of harmonious, coming to some type of agreement. Now, what does this do now? It now connects us back to the when we looked at the affinity, we looked at the triangle, the GPE, Great Pyramid of Egypt, good, evil, perfect. It goes also back to what we talked about, Mot, Venus, and the Anuk, because they join things together. They triangulate because when you join two things together, something, and if they can come together in harmony, a third something naturally comes out of it. All relationships produce a child, even if you don't have a physical child. When you harmonize with another person or life force, it naturally creates a child, or it creates an energy that comes out of the union. All of this is being conveyed and how all these different words are finding each other. Now, again, now here's what I have not done thus far is reduce 640 to 64. So now let me do that. And look at one of the words we find that coincides with 64. Dean. If you know any, if you got any brothers in your family that are Muslim, because I don't know if they use Deen to refer to women. I've only heard it referred to men. When you're on your Aladdin, your Aladdin. Well, here's what Deen means. Deen, which has a value of 64, it means justice, law, divine law. So when you're on your Deen, When you're on the Dean, you are tapping into, you are at a point of maturity where it's supposed to be a point where you are now becoming in alignment with divine law, justice. It's a point of growth where you are accepting your responsibility to be in tune with, on a higher octave, the infinite. Now, here's the thing though. When we talk about this word Dean, there's a hidden, true feminine essence behind all of this. And it's even reflected in the religion of Islam, but they don't, but they don't look, if you spell out the Hebrew equivalent of Allah, it would be, I think it's Aleph, boom, because that's 31. That's Allah in Hebrew. Aleph, Lamed, Hey. That's 5, that's 30, 35. Yeah, 36. Now, what is 36? It's a circle. Is a circle masculine or feminine? It's feminine. And so when you're on your Aladdin, it would be the equivalent of 36, 36 and 64. This is 9. This reduces to 1. Add those up, it's 10, reduces to 1. And now you have a whole. So in order to be whole, there must be divine justice that is in tune with actually something feminine. I hope that makes sense. Allah is always presented as he, masculine, masculine, masculine. But the Hebrew equivalent denotes something feminine. Aladdin. And my point I'm getting at is that even how it shows up here, it shows up in other ways because there's a goddess named Themis. There's a goddess named Themis, and the Themis possesses feminine progenitive qualities of Jupiter. Or we could say, yeah, she's the forerunner of Jupiter as a higher octave of law, rhythm, and frequency. She is the divine metronome, the goddess Themis. And she is where we get the word thesis, because a thesis is presenting a rhythm. It's about timing, which coincides back to what? Music. She is the metronome. Man and woman, when they come together in communion, represent this rhythm. Say that again. Man and woman, when they come together in communion, represent this rhythm. Here's another song for y'all to go and check out. It's by, I wish I could play these things. It's by the Jones Girls, and it's called I think they may have done a remake of, I don't know if they are the originals with this song. It says the name of the song is At Peace with Woman. Look up the Jones Girls and look up the song At Peace with Woman. Now, this merger that we're talking about, because see, you see how we saw 46 and we were talking about a merger. Now, in some regard, we see 64 talking about a merger, but it's a more 64 is more of an outward merger that supports an inward merger, which is 46. So look at this. Remember, 64, we found deem, justice, law, divine law. Well, look at this. When you take when you take the words for Adam and Eve, and her name is Chava. That is 7 plus 8. What's 7 plus? That's 15. 15. I spelled something wrong. No, it's 6 plus 8. That's 14. That's right. And hey on the end. So Eve's name Chava equals 19. Adim is 45. Add those two together, what do they equal? 64. So this is another code. This also applies to a balanced merger of spirit with flesh. Both scenarios represented in the union of Adam and Eve. And see, people get hung up on again taking the story literally. And we spend years arguing over did woman come from a man's rib when the shit ain't even the real root of the story. Eve, her name, that name means life. And Adam, if you put a hay on the end, it's earth. So Adam also means man. So Adam is the dirt that makes man. It's the blood that flows through man. Because if you take the aleph away, you have deem. Deem means blood. So Adam represents all of the rudimentary tools that create a human. But Eve is the life force. So Adam and Eve coming together is spirit merging with flesh. See, if we looked at it that way, we could end all this dumbass arguing people do over a waste of time and miss all of the metaphysical jewels. Because they were written that way to throw off those who ain't supposed to get to the actual sauce. That's what esoteric means. Exo is you read something and you take it at face value. I don't care if you read the Bible 25 times, which I never have read it cover to cover. People kill me bragging about that. I've read it, like who gives a it's like comprehension is what matters. I don't read half of these books cover. I used to read books cover to cover and didn't remember nothing. I don't read books cover to cover. I read them as a library. And then I can retain things because I'm not trying to read it for, ooh, I get a trophy because I read a book. Then you don't know nothing. Most people I talk to tell me how about they read the Bible, don't know shit about it. They read everything at face value. But the real essence is know what you're reading. The esoteric is the ability to know what you actually have read, which means you got to study. You can't, that's why I can't read the whole thing because it takes forever to go through one little passage or chapter and break down, oh, this name means that. That name means this. Then you actually figure out what's the hidden symbolism behind the story. So Eve is life force, Adam is the tools that the life will then go and bring essence. blow force into to animate. Okay, we got him. I gotta pick it up. I gotta pick it up. Damn. So okay, when we in the so-called spiritual world speak of the ego, it's typically from a space as being something that is bad or the antithesis of our path of ascension. Oftentimes, the people who parrot this the most are those with the most robust, connotatively speaking, egos themselves. As I present this, the sun has begun its transit through the sign of Aries, the energetic bandwidth of ego, the sign of emerging consciousness, the sign of the swaddling babe, the coagulation of cosmic stuff into a unique I. I propose we reframe our thinking of the ego at a core level. It's a cosmic chance, a chance for a particular shard of divine light, a thread of the almighty tapestry to become. Without the ego, there is no chance, no cosmic roll of the dice. Maybe this one right here will be the one. Which one, though? The one that will reunite the light into the light. The one who will help God know itself. That's the purpose of the ego. It's a roll of the dice. That's what the dreidel represents. It's a game of chance. But when you add up all the numbers, it represents the Mashiach. But it's how are you going to play the game? The concept of the Mashiach is already there. It's nothing that we're waiting on. We're not waiting on a person. It's already there. It is the reclamation of it. That's what the game is. And you got to have an ego to have the chance to be in the game. If you're not able to express your sun sign in a healthy manner, it can become detrimental to your well being on all levels. Notice I said healthy expression, which is the opposite of toxic, noxious expression. As students of astrology, we all know that there is far more to us than our sun sign. There are 8 other planets and another luminary to account for, and that still doesn't account for asteroids, fixed stars, mathematically derived points, and so forth. And depending on the set of cards that fate has dealt us, as in how the previously mentioned data points are arranged, we may have found it difficult to shine our light in a manner that yields positive reciprocation. The generational astrological indicators, coupled with, let me just give an example. When I say generational astrological indicators, for one, like Chiron, you know, Chiron is generational. Pluto, generational. Neptune, Uranus, those are generational indicators, you know, because they move so slow that they set a particular standard for a whole generation of souls. Okay. And depending, the generational astrological indicators coupled with the specific factors present in our birth charts can leave us altering our sunlight. Let me read that again. The generational astrological indicators, meaning the challenges that you incarnated with, coupled with specific factors present in our birth charts, can leave us altering our sunlight. Doing so stands in direct conflict with our personal vitality, the joy of the soul. So, in other words, if you are not able to express your sunlight in a healthy manner, it is detrimental to your soul and actually your physical health. You can't come here and have to deny who you are. You know, there is a conspiracy against the sun. Here we go. One that has us walking around pretending to be something that we're not, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Many times, the moon is used as the main vehicle to stifle the growth of the personal light. The moon, as it moves rapidly around the earth, is emotionally measuring your life's experiences. In doing so, it provides constant data to your subconscious mind. The data that life provides through the emotional lens of the moon can eventually alter the way your sun is expressed, sometimes for betterment. Sometimes emotional things actually make us grow. Actually, that is one of the secret equations for growth is some type of emotional turmoil. And sometimes that alters us for our betterment. But then, let me find my damn place again. But when the sun's light is negatively shown, chances are it started with a painful signature that was etched into the emotional papyrus, which is the personal book of life. Let me read that again. I want to make sure this sinks in. When the sun's light is negatively, because I don't care, there is, I try not to get on these soapboxes, but people put all this pop astrology stuff about. Let me tell you, every sign got some fucked up shit that they can express. Know this. Every sign has divinity that it can express. Well, the good and the bad is divinity. Let me clarify that. But the each sign can express the positive, evolved side of divinity and the fallen side. All of them. So when that negative or less evolved side is abrasively coming out, because all signs can be abrasive, you know, in some form or fashion, or, disharmonious. When that comes out, a lot of times it's got something to do with something emotionally that has happened. Some trigger that has happened emotionally, and it has etched something into this person's soul papyrus. This person's book of life has something that has been etched in it. And if it gets overlooked and it don't get dealt with, then that sun always expresses in that same fashion. And then we wonder why we get these responses from folk and this and that, but we never can see, well, sometimes it's how the version of light I'm showing. Because while the sun can warm things and provide light and can help us cook, it also can burn. It can blind. I need attention so much. Look at me, see me, and you become blind, and it's like somebody driving with their bright lights on. Like, damn, can do? Look, there are other people on the highway. You know, the sun can negatively express if our emotional body is ignored. Sometimes the ascendant can serve as a secret conspirator against the sun. The way you think you are perceived and the way people respond to your energy can contribute to misdirected or repressed illumination of your sun. Negatively interpreted ascending energy can also lead to the less evolved side of the sun being shown. So this becomes a personal challenge to delve into your own chart to see the natural predispositions, the psychological tendencies, and from that data make a choice as to how you choose to live and be. Your sun is an agent of creation, and without creativity, there is no life. The world of continually increasing convenience is designed to retard your abilities to create, to generate fire. When you create, you generate fire. And if you have too much convenience, you will lose your creativity. To learn who you are authentically and to be that is the ultimate expression of power. All efforts and energies that work counter to that represent the Antichrist. The Antichrist ain't a person, it's an energy. The realization of the full potential of your sun sign is not limited to a particular race, ethnicity, or culture. So, why did I create this presentation as a continuation of the series, The Astrology of Black People? It's because throughout my 48 years, as much as I've wanted to remove the previously mentioned forms of categorization, the world I live in has constantly reminded me of a status and associated stereotypes, coupled with systems that are in place to hinder my well being. Now, so I'll go into a little story here. I was at my family and I went to a holistic health fair in Fort Worth. And I'm going to read it how I wrote it. Upon arriving, a Caucasian woman entered the facility, older Caucasian woman, turned around in acknowledgement of our presence, pierced her lips, and allowed the door to close right on her shapeless, army green yoga pants covered hindquarters. The miserable young man who accepted our payment for entry reeked with the stench of, quote, ugh, what are you people doing here? End quote. And before you wonder if maybe I was just reading the room wrong, let it be known that this isn't my first time having this type of experience at an event amongst supposed awakened people. Upstairs, there were supposed psychics seated in a room. Upon entering, I told my wife that the energy felt like that, like being in a funeral home. Now, there were some bright spots, some kind people, both so called black and white. And in the sake of honesty, so I got to be honest. I must say that the unfriendliness that we experienced came not only from white people, but from some black folks too. However, the racial predominance was white, and the event was held in West Fort Worth. And if you down here, you know West Fort Worth, Camp Bowie, all that area, that has become persona non grata for those who are not of a certain status, you know? So we're in West Fort Worth, a more affluent portion of the city where our presence may have been a little off putting. A few points to highlight regarding this experience. One, just because some folks say they are spiritual or healers, don't be fooled into thinking that they are automatically positive people. Let me read this again. And if you don't get nothing else, you make sure you hear this. Just because people say they are spiritual or healers, don't you be no damn fool and think that they actually are about your good. These same people, in some regards, are just as horrible as these Christians or these 7 Day Adventists or these Muslims or these Jews or whoever, what they proclaim to be, who come up to you wearing their religion all on their. Let me tell you, I went to Plano one time to buy a cardio machine from a dude, and the whole time he's telling me about he's a preacher and this and that, and he fixes these machines. This fool tried to sell me when it was time to deliver the machine. He tried to send the machine with no power cord. But you want me to pay you the price you asked for. You showed me the machine, but you're going to deliver it not in the way that we agreed upon it. But you gave me 10,000 declarations of your love for Jesus, and I preached the word. I'm telling you, when them people like that come, run. Same thing when people come and they super spiritual, you better fucking run. Because you don't have to announce what you are. Your energy will announce you. Do not be fooled by people who proclaim to be this or that. 9 times out of 10, they ain't what they proclaim to be. So that's a public service announcement. Cause I used to be a fool. Oh, his brother's conscious and she's such and such and she got 25 earrings hanging off her and 75 earrings in her nose and she says beloved and man, that bullshit don't mean nothing. Log into any social media platform and you'll be bombarded with people saying that their guides gave them a message for you or that they are healers sent here just for you. While there are some legitimate people, let me make sure I'm clear. Because you know, people listen to a portion and a motherfucker run with that shit. I'm not talking about everybody. I'm not talking about the real people, the legitimate people. I'm talking about the others. While there are some legitimate people, the vast majority of them are full of shit. And if you could hold counsel with people they really know, you'll probably learn that in their private lives, they're anything but the character they portray on the internet. And that goes for all people. Two, while black people can too be discriminatory, the reality is that when it comes to the latest advancement in healing, it is a white dominated world. And although people may be interested in alternative forms of healing, going against the grain and battling big pharma, they can still very well maintain racist and prejudiced tendencies. Like I said, we have experienced this on several occasions. And as we've explored alternative forms of spirituality and wellness for over a decade. I'm still on topic. It's as if the hidden statement is, quote, you people don't deserve to be aware of these forms of care and wellness, end quote. Or, quote, what are you doing here? This isn't for you, end quote. I have felt that. I have felt it. I have felt it. It's not some imagination. It is real. It is real. You know that look. Like, what? That look of astonishment, like, you know, it's not a made up thing. One of the reasons it's important to highlight this sentiment is because it represents to some extent the attitude of eugenicists of the late 19th and early 20th century. See, all my shit ain't nothing just random at all. I'm always getting to a point. An example was John Harvey Kellogg, who was one of the founders of the Kellogg Corporation. Very interested in health and wellness, he founded a sanitarium in Battle Creek, Michigan. He focused on germ theory of disease, which that in itself is problematic. Germ theory, but we'll put that aside. That's another conversation. But aside from that, he was interested in such alternative forms of healing as enemas to heal the intestinal flora, hydrotherapy, vegetarianism, and other forms of holistic wellness. At the same time, he was a proponent of eugenics and segregation. So if we get down to the brass tacks, that access the message is that access to a better way of living should only be reserved for certain racial or ethnic groups. And that's the point of me bringing all of this up. That's the energy I have encountered in some of these spaces. You're thinking because people talk about all this language about We got to fight against these big corporations, and then there's a better way. And this health crisis that we had, it was a bunch of garbage, and they were harming people. And you're thinking, I feel the same way. Okay, yes, let's talk. But you go into, and I'm not saying all. None of this is a blanket. I'm just saying, in many instances, and the overarching mentality has been one that seems to align with a eugenicist type of mindset, meaning we want access to this type of stuff, but we don't want you. The last thing we want is you hanging around here longer. This has led us to become more actively involved in helping others in their journey of wellness and wholeness, not just for non white people, but for all people. The difference is that we know our capacity to treat everyone like humans, but we haven't always felt that some of the people we've encountered possess the same quality. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, these people have served as conspirators against the sun. Even in the world of supplementation, the question arises, is there a conspiracy against the sun? It could be argued that vitamin D is one of the master hormones. No, it's not actually a vitamin, it's a hormone. Given there are vitamin D receptors all over the body, and hormones are chemical messengers in the blood, astrologically falling under the custodianship of Mercury. Here are some of the benefits of vitamin D: improved bone health, support for cellular growth, which translates into the prevention of different C's. I'm not going, you can't, the big C. Infectious diseases, upper respiratory infections, and more. Organ health support, helping to prevent heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, periodontitis, and inflammation. Support for muscular health, improved autoimmune health, brain health support, and mood regulation and prevention of depression. This is all just stuff I am reading and I've read. I am not a health professional and I don't give out health advice. This is strictly for entertainment purposes only. Where a possible conspiratorial element comes in is with the recommended daily allowance. And I'm going to refer to this as RDA or vitamin D. The recommended daily allowance RDA of vitamin D. On my multivitamin bottle, it says it provides 1,200 IUs of vitamin D, which is said to be 200% of the RDA. The reality, however, is that for darker complected people, as powerful and magical as melanin is, it makes it harder to absorb the UV rays of the sun. Therefore, these people need 8 to 10 times, not medical advice, just entertainment, 8 to 10 times the RDA to maintain adequate levels of vitamin D. It is by design, then, possibly, that labels don't seem to speak to the health requirements of certain segments of the population. There is no there is so much energy spent quarreling with corporations over such things as DEI and other catchphrases that are given to us. But subtle things like abysmally low dosage recommendations for something as simple as vitamin D has farther reaching consequences, potentially life threatening consequences. This reminds me of a term I learned in college in the sociology course, and it's called symbolic annihilation. And it's self explanatory. It's where you eliminate the presence of a people or culture simply by not acknowledging their existence. That's symbolic annihilation. I won't mention you. You don't exist. And that is kind of what I'm gonna tell you another thing too I've encountered. in this world, that particular world, that holistic, a lot of those things ain't covered by insurance. You got to have cold hard cash, or some of them you can use your flex spending until it runs out. But a lot of stuff you got to have bank. And one way to not make a lot of things accessible to certain populations is price them out. Price them out. Again, I return to Malachi 4, 1 and 2. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that hear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and ye shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. Now bear this in mind regarding the vulture from my bundle offered on my site. This is a quote. Each morning the vulture faces the sun with wings outstretched to warm its feathers and cleanse itself of bacteria. I quote that in my bundle, but I am quoting that from Tim Andrews' book on animal speak. The Egyptian goddess associated with the vulture is Mot. Her name in Hebrew meaning death. The reverse is Tim, meaning perfection. This gives a clue that Mot, on one hand, represents a formula for transmutation, for healing, taking poison and converting it into a pathway of healing and growth. The aforementioned become living realities when we consider that the sun brings healing by the fact that it triggers vitamin D production. Furthermore, the UV rays of the sun constantly create ozone. Thus, as long as the sun shines, there is ozone. Ozone is heavier than air, so it falls. So when it falls, it combines with pollutants that are in the air and it cleanses the air. Similar to how the vulture spreads its wings to cleanse them. As ozone combines with water vapor, it forms hydrogen peroxide, a component of rainwater. No, you can't collect rainwater in a lot of places anymore. For the record, hydrogen peroxide is naturally antibacterial. Remember, the vulture spreads its wing, and as the feathers are warmed by the sun, it cleanses itself of bacteria. As ozone combines with water vapor, it forms hydrogen peroxide, a component of rainwater. For the record, hydrogen peroxide is naturally antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasitic, and antipathogenic. And as a sidebar, this is why it's so important to express emotion in a healthy manner. Why? Because emotion is the movement of water. See, remember I said the moon can be a conspirator against the sun because sometimes the emotion around it gets locked up. We try to move on past it, but that emotion gets locked up into a hidden chamber. And we don't know that that locked up emotion is causing us to express our sun a certain way. But the emotion is meant to flow. Water is meant to flow, to be felt, to be experienced. Sometimes we need a good cry. Just as naturally forming rain helps to cleanse the atmosphere and planet, so can tears. That's why I was trying to say this is a multifaceted conversation. It's not just this or that. It's a little bit of everything. As above, so below, as within, so without. The Gnostic scriptures, in the Gnostic scriptures, we learn about the creation of the demiurge and how its mother, Sophia, blew her divine essence into man. In this account, we see symbolic references to breath, spirit, and essence, fire. This is scientifically mirrored in the fact that ozone, which is O3, in addition to creating H2O2, which is hydrogen peroxide, also eventually splits into O2. O2 is oxygen, and it leaves behind O1, which is an oxide. When you split O3, which is ozone, it breaks down to oxygen and an oxide. While it may seem logical that oxygen is the most valuable portion, because we think, we're breathing oxygen. So it's like, that's valuable. We need that. What it appears that the main purpose of oxygen is to transport oxides. Sophia blew her breath, and we're thinking the breath was, but the breath representing O2 was just a transporter. There was something that the breath was bringing. That's what this is alluding to. Okay. The O1, the oxide, does the job of scavenging for rogue pathogens, attaching to and helping to eliminate them. So ultimately, what we have here is a demonstration of the sun fire essence as the catalyst. Your sun, your sun serving as a catalyst. The sun in the sky serving as a catalyst. Working with the breath. Because whenever sun is allowed to shine, it naturally creates ozone. Ozone breaks down into oxygen and you see what you picking up what I'm putting down? And oxygen is breath, is spirit. They are working together to allow a hidden cleaning agent to be transported physically and metaphysically. The biblical passage in Malachi and the mythos around Mot are literally providing codes for how to sustain the human vessel and flourish so that the true spiritual work can be attained while living in the 3D. That's what I propose. So, what if it were discovered that there have been attempts to intentionally block the sun? Could it be perceived as means to offset what has previously been mentioned? Is there a conspiracy against the sun? In the astrotheological mythos, the Christ is represented by the sun, which is why the latter is capitalized in Malachi 4 and 2. The sun is the natural ambassador of the sign of Leo. Sidebar, the fire signs represent youth. Aries is the emerging baby. Leo is the child at play. And Sagittarius is the child who has come of age but still maintains a sense of adventure and wonder. And it's the Christ figure who says in Mark 10 and 15, "Verily I say unto you, whosoever shall not receive the kingdom of God as a little child, he shall not enter therein." The energy referred to is that of the sun. The conspiracy against the sun is a conspiracy against children, against the realization of cosmic potential. It's also metaphysical, the conspiracy against the expression of your own creativity. And if this is stifled, then your physical health can be impacted too. In a nutshell, everything is everything. Finally, the sun represents the heart, a word that is an anagram of the word earth. Am I still? Yo, y'all let me know. Am I still on? Cause my thing, my on what you call it, say I ran out of disk space. Am I still live? Let me know. Somebody give me a one, please, if I'm still alive. Yesterday, my stream cut off on me. I talked for about 15 minutes and I wasn't even on. Yo, if you can still hear me, let me know. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Um, okay, thank you. Y'all coming in. All right. It cut off on the other side. So as I was saying, and I'm wrapping this up. The sun represents the heart, a word that is an anagram of the word earth. Anagram just means it's the words are redistributed. Hidden in both words is the word art, which again denotes creation and the continued perpetuation of light. To create is to stoke the fire of the heart. To create is to find harmony on earth. Protect your sun, love on it, nurture it, and let it shine. Finally, while this message may seem to just be for so-called black people, it's a universal message. All people deserve to experience the fullness and richness of existence. However, I'm still so-called black in America, with an experience that is unique, at times painful, rich, and powerful, all at the same time. So take from this what you will, whomever may consume this. Eat the fish, and if you find bones, spit them out. And on that, I conclude. That's a wrap. So yeah, man, I appreciate y'all. I got this thing done live. So that means I don't have to go back and edit this and spend all this time trying to get this thing in post production. So yeah, that wraps it up. I hope this was edifying and help me out. You can help me out a lot of ways. You can drive up these likes. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Engage. I know it takes me a while to answer comments, but I do answer respond to all the comments, and I'm going to be responding to some of the previous videos, but engage, you know, and help with some organic growth here because I don't know if I'm particularly algorithm friendly, but that human essence can do a lot. So help the old gray bearded one out. And I appreciate y'all for your energy. I appreciate the mods in the house, and we'll be back again. I have a video coming. Let me give you a teaser. Let me give you a teaser. I'm gonna be looking at Neptune's ingress into Aries, and I'm gonna juxtapose it with professional wrestling. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. And I'm gonna also juxtapose that with Donald Trump. I'm gonna pull it. We're gonna look at his chart. We're gonna look at Kendrick Lamar's chart. We're gonna look at, although Kanye West chart is what they call dirty data, we're gonna pull his chart. Three Geminis, and there's a connection between them and professional wrestling with the whole show. And that's the next one we're coming back with. And yeah, I look forward to that one. So thank you, CC. Thank you, Dad Crazy. Thank you, Cheryl. Uh, Smarter Than You, Straight Panther, Sage, Pretty Kitty. Let's see. Kismet. Let's see who else. Go Seti in the house. Let me make sure I acknowledge everybody. Did I say Sage? Kareem. Uh, CRC. That's Cat. Peace Cat. Let's see. Lovey. Divine Rights. Mindful Moments. Rakizi. Mm. So I wrote an essay in my English class about the sun. Okay. We are doing 5 edits on our essays from the words to the sentences to the paragraphs. All right. Okay. Right on. Natural Market. Peace. Detroit. That's Gemini. That's my Gemini sister. Okay. All right. Once again, thank y'all. Y'all have a beautiful day. And the website is 720astrology.com. Know the stars to know yourself. Peace.